You're listening to Arsenal Pass, a flesh and blood podcast for players by players. And all about strategy, leveling up, and the latest news in the world of Wraith. Welcome to Arsenal Pass.
Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 226 of Arsenal Pass. Hayden here with Pankaj, Bhojwani as always. This week on the pod, we're doing a bit of a recap of this weekend's past events, including myself at the Calling Auckland, a bit of a follow-up on last week's podcast as well. A bit of a, we got into it last week, Pankaj, we got a bit contentious. We got some great comments on the pod. And then we're also going to look ahead to this weekend's events, including Calling Kansas, some Battle Hardens, and Pankaj will be playing. He's dusting the cobwebs off his deck box, and he's playing an event this weekend. He's out of the booth, so we're going to break that down here from the man himself. But before all that, Pankaj, how has your week in Flesh and Blood been?
Dusting the cobwebs is definitely correct. I've actually still been waffling on what to play, and I think as of yesterday evening, we're recording on Thursday afternoon, I fly tomorrow evening, and I think yesterday evening I decided I'm just going to ship this deck.
Okay.
We'll get more onto it.
Yeah, keep it to yourself
the main
for now.
topic. but it's a deck I haven't played in a while, so we'll see how that goes. But before we go into that, congrats on making top 8 this past weekend. We're obviously going to talk about that, about what exactly happened at Auckland, the meta, and your run. But huge congrats, man. That's calling day 2s and calling top 8s are hard. So
thank you.
Good stuff to making top 8.
I'm making a habit of bombing any event on day 1 and then doing better on days 2 and 3. That's kind of that's been my routine the last few events. Did it in Worlds in Osaka, bombed Worlds, top 16 the calling. Did it in Singapore, bombed the PT, 17th at the calling, cashed the calling. And then did it again this past weekend. We'll get into that, but yeah.
So this just means that next time there's a Pro Tour or something, we need to set up an event for you on Thursday, like maybe an on-demand armory or something. You can bomb that, and then when the Pro Tour starts Friday, you're
Good point. Maybe that's the next. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm down with that.
Exactly. Get your warm up.
What else has been happening this week? So you've obviously been playing a little bit, testing a little bit. You leave... So wait, it's Thursday. So wait, you leave tomorrow or you leave this evening? Sorry.
I leave tomorrow. I leave Friday evening. I'm reaching there Friday night and basically just going to bed and then waking up and playing the calling. So honestly, not a lot of prep. Since I've moved on to this new deck, it's been basically not a lot of prep. I'm not expecting too much this weekend, but we'll see. I'm hoping to have fun at least. It is at least a deck that I enjoy.
Okay.
So
all right.
That's important.
Can't believe you're playing Teklevossen. Right, we'll get on to more of that in the main topic.
I do not enjoy Teklevossen. But of course, this past weekend I was tuned into the stream. The sealed side of it as well, actually. Well, the sealed and draft of it, which was actually very enjoyable to watch. I was surprised because normally, limited typically is not as interesting to watch. Kind of the viewership reflects that as well, but I was tuned into it and actually enjoying myself quite a bit watching it. It was making me a little bit, I can't say nostalgic because I didn't really play when it was just WTR, but it was making me miss like heavy hitter style Flesh and Blood, really. Just the little increments of value, a few blowouts here and there with like a pummel and kind of thing. Was missing that just sort of gameplay, which I feel like it's been a while since we've seen in CC.
Yeah.
But enjoyed the limited stream and of course also really enjoyed the classic constructed side of it as well on day 2.
Pure Flesh and Blood as James White intended. Pummel over the top. Double pummel over the top. I was a bit... I'll recap my event. I was a little bit gutted not to get to draft Welcome to Wraith because Welcome to Wraith Limited is one of my favorite formats. And yeah, there's like a big nostalgia factor to that, right? And reminiscing. But as I sort of prepped for this event a little bit, tried to play some Seal because I was just super excited to return to Welcome to Wraith. I was really enjoying it, honestly, and was super excited. So I can recap that a little bit. But I just want to quickly shout out before we get into all that. A couple of people and things you mentioned the stream. I think the devs did the stream over the weekend, right? And some of them have obviously casting experience, some of them don't, but they did such a great job. And I want to shout out someone I've known for a while. I don't know if he listens to the pod, probably not, but I know maybe a couple of them do from time to time. But Mr. Classic, Kieran, I was watching back some of the games, and it's clear just how in tune, even with an older format or a format that they're not currently working on in dev, are so attuned with, just like the calls and the lines that they were seeing. And I was like, this is high level analysis, which is fantastic. So just want to shout them out. I know they're not necessarily super involved in the current meta or anything like that, or they've got to cast their mind back all the way to Welcome to Wraith. But I know they Karen and Carol, etc., played a lot of it. So yeah, no, it was cool to see. I've been watching back the coverage, and nice to hear from some people. If you're back around Flesh and Blood in the very early stages, Carol and Kieran, two of the developers there, they were one of the first to sort of create content for this game at a competitive level with Session Blood. So it was cool to hear them back doing it again.
For sure. I think the devs did an amazing job on the mic, and I think that was what contributed a lot to my enjoyment of watching the stream, even the limited side, which I'm typically not super interested in. I think the devs just made it very, very entertaining. You shouted out Kieran and Carol, but also the other pair, Young and Kasharn, who I don't know if it's their first times. I'm pretty sure it's Kasharn's first time. I don't know if it was Young's
might be
first
Young's
time,
second. I think Young did Christchurch as well last year or earlier this year. So.
Yeah, but exactly what you're saying. It's like they had the level of depth to make it engaging for enfranchised players, but they were also just straight up entertaining. So at a great time. I think they did a lot to make both streams very, very entertaining.
Yeah,
so shout out to them.
I mean, I can get into my recap. I just, it's so cool being in the birthplace of Flesh and Blood, and first of all, seeing a lot of people that I've obviously known. A lot of this event got a lot of people out, right? It was a Welcome to Wraith sealed and limited event. It was Alpha Draft on day 2. There was this Arcane Rising Battle Hardened on the Sunday. It got a lot of faces out that I hadn't seen in a while, right? Some of those players that had played in the early days of Flesh and Blood. So it was really cool to see some of them. Shout out to the LSS staff as well for showing up and being around, and they were slinging in side events. They were playing Project Blue events and stuff like that. A lot of the devs I saw, Jason Chung, who people are probably familiar with. Shout out to Jason Lai, who's one of my favorite people as well. Honestly, dude is just is awesome. Caught up with some of them a little bit, hearing their bad beat stories about what they were doing in Project Blue. A dev may or may not have been cheating with an illegal deck list. That's all I'm saying. Not on purpose, obviously. Purely on accident, but funny all the same. It was a cool event, honestly. I would say if people were watching the stream, you might have noticed that people looked cold though on stream. I don't know if you noticed.
I did not notice. I mean, I know you were wearing your jacket or your sweater or whatever, but I feel like you're always wearing that.
No, I was wearing 3 layers. I was so cold. I was so the venue, I think. The event was fantastic. The venue was probably not ideal. So it was basically it was a card show, basically like a con, effectively, for trading card games in New Zealand. I think it's once a year and a pretty sizable event. And all that was fantastic. I think just the venue where the more event side was really high ceilings. Maybe didn't have the best heating and insulation, and was quite cold. So there was rounds where I was struggling with my cards a little bit because my hands were so cold. So yeah, if you look at Alex 4 in top 8, he's just he looks like he's about to go hike a mountain or something. It's insane. It was quite cold, but everything else was fantastic.
I didn't notice that. I mean, that game was so fast, so I was
of course.
Don't think I got a good chance to look at his body language or his physique. The game was over in a turn, right? So.
Yeah. All the action was on the board. Didn't really have time to look away. So yeah, event was cool. So yeah, I can maybe not that quickly, Pankaj, but I can go through my events. So obviously I was super excited to play Welcome to Wraith Limited. I did the same thing that you're doing for this event. I literally flew in the night before, got in about midnight, before the event. Got to my accommodation. I was staying with a bunch of my good friends from New Zealand, which is awesome. So had an Airbnb, which obviously didn't pay dividend on the first day because I flew in and went straight to bed and then got up and played the event. But it did over the next 2 nights, which is cool. Got to hang out, play some cubes, some Magic cubes. If people I still play Magic every now and again, which is kind of cool. Playing some board games and things like that in the evening, which is always fun with friends. But yeah, played Welcome to Wraith Sealed. So I opened my sealed pool. Basically, I played maybe 30 or 40 games of Welcome to Wraith Sealed. I played a decent amount before because you can get through them really quickly. You can like generate a sealed pool and like play, sort of 5 or 6 games of Talishar in an evening very quickly, like in the space of 2 hours sort of thing when it's sealed. Especially when it's Welcome to Wraith and you kind of know the ins and outs. You can play it pretty quickly, I think. But I definitely played. There was this whole thing about you just play Bravo, and I think from the games I played that was definitely not the case. I think Rhinar was really strong from what I was seeing in Sealed. And if you opened the right pool in Dory or Katsu, they were also really strong. But I didn't have a lot of experience playing those pools because I just didn't open that many pools. And I opened my pool and I looked through my cards. First of all, I have an E-Strike, which is super cool, right? Open an E-Strike, that's always nice. Nothing else of particular value. But I'm looking through and I'm like, okay, like I have maybe enough blues to scrape through a Bravo deck, but a lot of them block 2, which is not great. I don't have a lot of payoff. My equipment is maybe not set up for that. Okay, that's fine. Kind of put that to the side. Go through my Ninja. Not enough 0-cost blues. No chance I can play Katsu and dagger people down, Kadachi people down. Fine, okay. Look through Rhinar. I'm always like, okay, Rhinar's like, pretty strong. If I can play Rhinar, awesome. Look through. My Rhinar actually looks pretty decent. A couple of good reds, some good yellows, and some good blue 3 blocks. But I don't have necessarily I think when you're playing Rhinar in the Seal format, one of the things we worked out is you need a good way to win the game. I was like, I don't know if I have a good win condition. So I was like, I could put that to the side.
Like you need some intimidates, right? You can set up like a...
You need to be able to pitch deck a win.
Like a double, triple intimidate.
Yeah, exactly. And I did have that, but it was going to be... If I ever got caught having to block with 1 or 2 of them, I might not be able to win the game, right? So it was like, okay. And then I pick up my Dorinthia. I have the boots. I have Route, which is a very powerful card. And I count up, if I played the deck, I could have 25 3 blocks in my deck. And I was like, ooh. And I'm sitting I'm sitting there and I'm like, I think I'm torn. I'm like, is this... Because I think Dorinthia is the weakest of the heroes in Sealed. I'm kind of torn.
She's the most synergistic, it feels like.
She is.
It's Sealed, so you're guaranteed the synergies, yeah.
Yeah, but I think she's most at the mercy of how you draw, because I think it's harder to pitch stack value. So, for instance, Rhinar can pitch stack Intimidates and things like that. Bravo can make sure that they can just Anathos in the end game and potentially keep some D-Rex in the deck, or a big dominated attack, right, to make sure they can push through damage. And then Katsu just kind of has the inevitability with Kadachis. If you just have the right combo lines, you just have enough damage. You don't even need that good combo lines. You just need damage and Kadachis, right? Whereas Dorinthia... If you get into the end game, your opponent knows your pitch stack. They know the reprise cards you have. They know how to play around. Your cards have lower value on average than other decks, so you can actually be in a lot of trouble. So I'm like, okay. So I'm tossing up for a while. End up registering the Dorinthia deck, which actually I do think was correct. I think I registered the right deck. Go through the event. I actually pair into Jacob Clements round 1 for
who made the finals.
Who made the finals?
So that's a tough opponent. Yeah.
Globetrotter. That was actually my first time playing against Jacob and meeting properly, so it was super cool to play against Jacob and meet Jacob. I think the European World Tour points leader right now for the EU region.
I think he's up there. He's in the top 3 for sure.
Yeah. He's been obviously globetrotting around the world. He's playing Ninja, playing Katsu, and we have a pretty interesting game that kind of goes back and forth. I think I make a pretty big mistake, to be honest. Like trying to hold value on a reaction that he just kind of reads pretty well. Obviously, very good player, and punishes me massive 4. And I think I honestly was quite far ahead in the game, and I think I threw the game, which is not ideal to start. Mm-hmm. Win a couple of rounds, and then I lose a really close mirror against Darren Ying, who's 2-time limited calling winner out of New Zealand, bit of a limited master on a Dorinthia mirror. Lose that one. And then I think the second to last round of the day, I pair into a Bravo who just doesn't let me play the game. They're just like, every single turn, dominate, basically. I'm like, cool, okay. So that game was over and about. Usually in Welcome to Wraith Sealed, you 80% of the time you go to second cycle and the games are very interesting. This game went for 5 turns and was, maybe it was just 4 turns and was over. So that was kind of my day done, unfortunately. I think my deck was reasonable. I think I didn't play the best, unfortunately, and wasn't feeling great because I was like really excited to be there and do some Welcome to Wraith draft, but didn't play well enough to get the opportunity to draft on day 2. So that was kind of my Welcome to Wraith calling over effectively.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, sealed can sometimes be tough. You did open, like, not Bravo, like, not like the default pick.
Yeah. Did open Route, though. Route is very good.
Nice.
I would say...
And E-Strike.
Yes.
Got to take the wins.
Exactly.
You got them. Yeah.
I think I played E-Strike once. The rest of the time I had to defend with it.
Oh.
I would say my draws were not particularly helping me out either. Unfortunately, my Route often showed up in the first hand. In I think 4 of my games, I drew Route in my opening hand, which is not what you want, right? Like you want that at
more
opportune time.
They're never blocking anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, you sort of go back, decide, right, regroup. We're going to play the calling on day 2. So there was obviously 2 callings, the sealed calling, limited calling, and the classic instructor calling. I get to play Arakni Slip Through the Cracks. I spoke about it last week that, I think it's, if not the best deck in the format, it's one of the top 2 decks in the format with Gravy Bones, right? In my view, excited to play it. I think it's really good. I've been enjoying playing Slippy. So that's all well and good. So have a pretty reasonable day 1. I lose to a Verdance in round 3, I think 2 or 3. A very close game, which I think I potentially could have won if I had more experience in the matchup. I've only played that matchup a couple of times now, and every time I play it, the end games play out a little bit different each time, and I think I need to learn some more of the iterations of the end game because it's really interesting how those end games go. And if they play at their best, it's really hard to be able to navigate the end game. But they only have so much damage.
Verdance is definitely favored.
But they only have so much damage.
Yeah,
I do think it's Verdance favored.
Yes, I suppose. Yes, they only have so much damage. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Like,
but I'm not entirely sure. I don't think you can fatigue them if that's. I'm not sure if that's a viable strategy. Maybe if you accidentally end up there, if they block too much.
Yeah, well, so both times I've played it at callings now, I've almost fatigued my opponent both times. So, and not necessarily on purpose, but I think, to your point, so if they present a felling, I'm throwing my hand at it every single time. I'm going to soak up the damage,
of course.
Reset, unless my hand is absolutely busted. So I think if they're not able to leak damage on other turns, it can be a bit difficult. Obviously, they have Burn Bear, they have a few. I honestly think if I was playing Verdance right now, I would just play 1 or 2 Millennium Trees.
Millennium Trees?
Yeah. I would consider it. Or maybe 2 extra just burn spells or something.
I don't know whether you would bring them into Slippy, though, even if you had them. Millennium Tree into Slippy feels quite suspect, unless you get it exactly after you felling them and they fold their entire hand and then you draw Millennium Tree. Because most of the times you need to... Millennium Tree asks a lot from your hand, and Slippy isn't really giving you that space typically.
Yeah, does block 3 though, and is an Earth card at worst. But
yeah,
and you can potentially pitch second. But anyway, so I lose to Verdance in a close game. I get to play against Lucas Oswald on Gravy. I think the round after that, which I haven't played against Lucas before, so it was cool to see. There was a lot of travelers, so there was a lot of US players. I know Michael Fung, obviously, always globetrotting around, and Brody as well. But Chris Ayali was there, Alex Vaughn was there, Lucas Oswald was there, which is super cool to see. I met, after talking about Naib on the pod last week, I met him, which was very cool. I know we spoke about Naib. I said, hey Naib, I mentioned you on the pod this week, so if you hear anything, me and Pankaj were discussing you by name. Which was quite nice. So yeah, lots of international. Obviously, Jacob Clements, a few other Europeans. There was quite a lot of international travelers, which was quite cool to see. So play a game against Lucas. I would say I drew quite a bit better than Lucas, and then I tried to punt, but luckily was far enough ahead that didn't matter. So I would say my day 1 was I ended up 5-2. I also lost to a Fang in the last round. I just had not played that matchup before, and did not particularly
That's
play.
Also a tough matchup.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not an easy matchup for you as well.
I think,
especially, because they know Slippy's going to be around, they're probably running the Slippy hate cards, right? I'm sure you got attacked with the Hunt of the Ends of Wraith, and it's just that when Fang gets to just have a Draconic Chain Link that's not the dagger, on the first one, it's so
annoying. Yeah.
And it marks you as well, so then they get an extra fealty too. It's just, they're good in that matchup for sure.
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot. I was thinking if I got to play the matchup again in top 8, I had a plan, and I thought I could, I felt like I could definitely win the matchup, but it wasn't favored. But yeah, it was quite interesting. So I ended up 5-2 on day 1. Felt okay. I lost that in that Fang in the last round and was maybe a little annoyed about it, but I think it felt good going into day 2 nonetheless.
I mean, you only lost, it sounds like you only lost your 2 unfavored matchups. Although I guess the gravy one's contentious. Some people might say you're unfavored. I know you think you're favored. Well, whatever. The two that most people can agree on you are unfavored on, which is Fang and Verdance. Those were the only ones you lost. So yeah, I'd say that's pretty good.
Yep. I definitely was like, right, gonna go regroup. You know, I feel like when you're thinking about limited a lot as well. Like when you're thinking about one format and then you're trying to switch to another format, sometimes, you know, the brain can be a little bit slow to catch up. You got to reflect and be like, right. So it's like, I'm going to lock in for day 2. Let's just lock in for day 2. We got this.
Real quick, who were the 5 wins then? So you played 1 gravy, and who were the other 4?
So I played against 2 Dash-IOs.
Okay. That's good for you.
That matchup feels free, unfortunately for the Dash-IOs. I played against, so a gravy, 2 Dash-IOs, that's a great question. I'd have to go back and... I played a mirror as well.
You played a mirror? Okay.
So that's 4.
Did you play against a marionette?
I played against a marionette round 1. Yeah, I played against a marionette round 1.
Wait, how was that?
I played against a player, I can't recall their name. I think maybe they're still newer to the game. So I think maybe they didn't know the matchup super in depth. Like they knew their deck well, I think, but they didn't necessarily know the matchup that well. And I was able to eke some value. But I actually played it against a player that played pretty well at the calling in Singapore, and I won there as well. I think the matchup is actually not that bad.
It's you are unfavored, but I mean it's an assassin mirror, right? Sometimes you put them in a blender and then they're just in the blender.
I also just think you have a much better deck than they do, so like it kind of offsets the fact of you giving them the hero ability, because I think you just have a better deck than they do.
That's fair. It does. There are lots of marionette hands where you're like, I can't really fully leverage the Slippy hero ability anyway. They're not like that many stealth cards compared to like Slippies. So
yeah, and then sometimes like you block out something, or you have double defense react. You kind of stop their big turn. You pass back. They have marked you and roll into something, and then they have like 3 stealth attacks or something, and they're like, well, they haven't rolled into anything, and then they've got their hero ability plus your hero ability. And I don't know what's going on. If you're a video watcher, by the way, I don't know what's going on with my camera. I can only apologize. I'm going to try and reset my camera. But yeah, I think it's not the worst. I honestly think like sometimes, to your point, they just get punished, or they don't roll the right hero at the right time, that sort of thing. Like the use of their Mask of Deceit. Is that the...
Mask of Deceit?
Yeah, like it's so important. They have to use it really well in their matchup, I think.
I can't hear you anymore. Oh, okay. Sorry, now I can.
Okay, that's good. That's all right. They can still hear me.
Yeah. You were saying Mask of Deceit?
They have to use it really well. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was day 1. Day 2, I get put on stream round 1 of day 2. If you want to check that out, it's a game against Gravy. I think the game is quite interesting. I think I take some interesting lines in the game. I think the majority of them are good lines, but maybe lines that not everyone would agree with, including not playing my first 2 bonds that I draw, instead pitching them, which some people might not agree with. But I enjoyed that game a lot. Started off with a win, and then I went 3-0 after that, actually. So ended the day sort of going 4-0, which was quite nice, and into top 8. I played against a Kano in the last round. So I played against Amelia in the last round of Swiss. Amelia made the finals. I played against... did I play against another Dash-IO? No, I got paired into Lionel last round, and then there's a repair. And then I was to see, okay, Lionel, and I was like, I'll let you off this one. You can get let off on this round.
Prism, I think you mentioned. You played against a Prism?
I played against Prism in top 8.
Wait. Oh, right. That was in top 8. Yes,
my top 8 game against Prism.
Ah, yes. That was it.
I played... did I just play against the one Gravy? Yeah, I think I played another Mirror, maybe. Wow, that's bad. I'm not good. Sometimes I get so like focused on the game I played at the time that afterwards I don't remember my games, which is kind of crazy. So I think I played another Mirror though, from memory.
Okay. Cool. All good. Okay, so you made top 8, and so you made top 8 X2. I believe you were... What was your seed?
I was 3rd seed.
It was like 3rd seed. Yeah, it was like in the upper half. I remember.
Yeah, 3rd seed.
Feeling good, and the top 8. There was only one other Slippy, right? All the other heroes were unique. I think there was a Prism, there was a Kano, there was an Acilio.
Yeah, it was.
There was one Gravy.
6 heroes. Ira made top 8, I think.
Ira.
Or maybe they didn't.
And Verdance, I want.
Yes. Yeah, Verdance.
Oh, no, we just completely made that up. Hang on. I have the topic graphic. I'm just going to read it out from here. There was Kano, first seed. Second seed was CYK Lionel and Dash.io. Third seed was you and Slippy. Fourth seed was another Slippy. Fifth seed was Acilio. Sixth was Prism. Seventh was Gravy. Eighth was Fang.
There you go. I just had
was that the Fang you played against?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's the one I lost to on day one. Okay. I just had a look. I played 2 Kanos in the last 2 rounds, actually. There you go.
Oh, okay. Nice. And you have the AB3 Spell Void 3, right? So you're like chilling.
I do. I think it's quite a good matchup. I mean, look, Kano can definitely still win that matchup. It's like, I would say it's maybe like 60 to 70% at best. Like, it's not like it's free for you. But I think if you're playing...
like good.
Yeah, I think if you're playing AB2 Spell Void 2, it's like, it might even be slightly... It's probably 50-50 at that point, I think. I think the AB3 Spell Void 3 is like really important, I think, in that matchup.
Agreed.
Unless you get a really hot start. So yeah, anyway, lost to Prism top 8. Again, another game that was on stream. Another game where just my inexperience in the matchup cost me, I think. Like, I made a couple of plays that I shouldn't have made. I think just not knowing the matchup. I think my lines maybe could have been better. I'd say my opponent, played well. I think definitely drew quite well in a couple of turns as well to punish me for my lines as well. But yeah, it was an interesting game, and I think I'm happy with the top 8. I think I would have loved to have anytime you top 8 a calling, I think it's like, oh, I want my hands on that trophy, right? I think that's just natural. But it was nice to top 8 another calling. It's been a while, so
yeah. It's really good. And so congrats again. What was the gold foil that people want to know?
All right, so I have the gold foil. It is still sealed, Pankaj, and I think let's open it.
Gotta open it.
Let's open it on the pod next week. Let's open it up on the pod next week. So I want to hear in the comments, what's the gold foil I'm going to open? What are we expecting? What would we like to see from this gold foil? And if you curse me with bad gold foils, I will be upset.
I think something that'll be very apt for you is scab skins.
Oh my goodness, that would be amazing. A Welcome to Wraith. I'll take any Welcome to Wraith gold foil, obviously. What if it's from High Seas or the Hunted, though? I
mean, gold baited hook is fitting gold foil.
Gold baited hook.
This thematic.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, drop us in the comments. Let us know what you would like to see me open. We'll open it. We'll open it on the pod next week. Crack this gold foil open. I just want to lastly to recap the event. Just want to shout out some players and people. I love callings, and I think there's a difference between a calling and a PT. I think PT sometimes can feel very intense. I think, right, like it's the highest possible tier of flesh and blood, and everyone is put a lot of preparation and time into it. And so the games often feel very intense, and the attitude's often very intense. There's something about callings where often it's just a little bit of that step down. And when you play against some of the best players in the world in callings, also I think they're a little bit more relaxed. I mean, I personally feel that as well. I feel like the pressure's a little bit off. And I got to play against some amazing players, some great players who also had a great time chatting to and playing the game, right? I mentioned I played against Lucas Oswald on day one, played against 2-time New Zealand national champion Ollie Berry, which was on stream as well. Jacob Clemens, was great to play against Jacob, plus a whole host of other players, including, I got to play against someone that was their first time day twoing a calling, and, their energy was fantastic. So just these games are so cool. So yeah, I just want to shout that out. Also want to shout out some of the LSS team and those that were there at the event. Caught up with, our friend Brian Gottlieb as well, which was great to see Brian. He'd come off a 5 a.m. landing from, I think, Gen Con and all those events last week in the US and managed to still come and make an appearance at the event, which is very cool. My last thing was just takeaways and learnings. I think, honestly, Slippy is just kind of insane, and I almost feel like every single game I play is winnable, and that just feels kind of ridiculous to me that's the case. So I'm keen to play more of this hero. I put up a full sideboard guide, deck guide for the list I played, including a lot of my thoughts and learnings around how to play the deck, a lot of the watch outs, how to navigate certain tips and tricks and things like that. And I feel like I'm going to continue to add to that. I was like, I'm going to put up like a 2 or 3 page sideboard guide, and then I ended up with like an 8 page kind of deck guide for Slippy, and it'll probably grow, to be honest. So that was fun.
Mm-hmm. It's very comprehensive. Would recommend people go check that out. It's a very interesting read. While we're doing shout-outs and congrats, we should probably congratulate the winners of the weekend. So shout out and congratulations to Logan Boyd for winning the limited calling. And of course, shout out to CYK Lionel for winning the classic constructed one on Dash.io.
Yeah, shout out, super massive shout out from my side to Logan, because Logan is is just a very cool individual as well. Very nice guy. Just great energy, I think, for the community from up in Queensland and Australia. And I know they all had a good evening after Logan grabbed the trophy. And I know the Battle Hartman was also won by Thomas Bailey Galbraith as well from New Zealand. So a couple of, it's nice to have a winner from New Zealand, a winner from Australia, and a winner from abroad as well for the 3 events over the weekend, which is quite cool.
Yeah, the hometown buff for sure, but also a little bit of a international victory as well. Moving on to some just quick pieces of news. We have a preview card for Super Slam, and we'll be showcasing on Monday, September 8th. Haven't fully decided what we're going to do about it yet. Maybe it'll just be in a tweet, or maybe we'll do a...
That's going to be on you, that one, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Other than that, the replay analysis with Shurei Wu is out. We covered his finals game in the Gravy Mirror. It was a long game. It was an hour and a half total, I think, the video. Definitely go check that out.
It's so good, Pankaj.
Pick up Gravy.
Honestly, you guys smashed it.
For the
you guys smashed it. Like Thank that. You. If you want to learn how to play the Slippy Mirror, go and watch that video. The questions.
Gravy Mirror.
Sorry, Slippy's on the mind. Little slip of the tongue there. Go and check it out. Like if you want to learn the Gravy Mirror, I think from obviously a Pro Tour champion who did it on Gravy, and also just the questions that Pankaj asks, I think to get inside the head of a champion is just fantastic. Yeah, he
clearly knows so much. I mean, obviously he won the whole event, and was great picking his mind on his various plays, particularly lines around Compass. So if you're curious about that, definitely go check out the video. And yeah, this weekend we've got Colin, Kansas, and we also have a Battle Hardened in Perth, and then next weekend is Copenhagen. I don't know whether the Perth one is being streamed, but Colin, Kansas is definitely being streamed, so go check that out.
Yeah, I don't know about Perth. I was thinking about going, but I go away in 2 weeks' time, so I've decided to not go. This is crazy. Also, for me to get to Perth, which is in Australia, it's in Western Australia, it takes almost double the amount of time than it did for me to get to the calling last weekend. It's 5 hours to get to Perth. Yep, it's 5 hours to get to Perth.
By what mode of transport?
Plane. Both by plane.
What?
Perth in Western Australia is further away than New Zealand is from where I live in Eastern Australia.
Oh, okay. Okay, I guess that makes sense. Okay.
Kind of. It's just annoying, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, excited for, obviously, Kansas, excited for Copenhagen, excited for these Battle Hardens, excited to tune into the stream this coming weekend. As you say, it will be live all weekend. Commander Cookout time, though. Speaking of, callings and meeting people and things like that, I got a question in person this past weekend, Pankaj, and I've shot it straight to the top of the Commander Cookout this week because, I love a question in person. I want to shout out to Coleman and Ethan Beam, who this question comes from, who I believe, I didn't get a chance to have a chat to them, but they sounded like they were from the US. So if you're listening, maybe you're in the comments, let us know where you're from. I'm curious. I didn't quite catch where you're from, but great question. Let us know if we answer the question satisfactory as well. But if you want to get your questions in for the Commander Cookout, please do so. You can drop them in the YouTube comments below. Let us know their Commander Cookout question. You can email us at arsenalpassfab@gmail.com. You can go to our Patreon Discord if you're an Arsenal Pass Patreon subscriber. You can also do what Coleman and Ethan did. You can give us a note, a nice handwritten note. And I also shout out to these two because this is the best note we've been given, Pankaj, because it's very much legible. And they put their names at the bottom of it, which is very important. We need your names because we do often meet a lot of people. Also, these guys are definitely from the US because on the back is they put it on the back of a notepad, which is a cold foil control notepad. If anyone knows cold foil control, they're a group out of Texas, I believe. So I'm going to guess that's maybe where they're from. Anyway, the question is...
Nice, more Globetrotters.
Exactly.
Pog.
I mean, welcome to Wraith and a potential alpha draft. That's pretty cool. It's difficult to manage, Hayden and Pankaj, is it difficult to manage real life, playing Flesh and Blood and content creation? Do you feel responsible to continue since you are an OG content creator from Coleman and Ethan? Do you want to kick this off?
Sure, yeah. I'd say, so there's two questions here. First thing, is it difficult to manage real life, playing Fab and content creation? And then number two is, do you feel responsible to continue? I'd say yes to the first and no to the second. The first one in particular, definitely these say this year, definitely I've been feeling a little bit of the strain on like balancing real life stuff alongside Flesh and Blood stuff and content creation. Partly also because at least to do like I'm part of the coverage side, right? So I do like travel a fair bit for like pretty much like all the tier 4 events, US Nationals as well, and sometimes a few events here and there as well. So that's, and this year at least on real life stuff, I've been feeling a little bit more of the strain. I've been have more things I need to get done on the real life side of things. Yeah, so that one can be tough. And there's definitely also led to like, I think particularly this weekend, why I don't feel like as prepared as I'd like to be for the calling. But that definitely happens sometimes. The second question, do I feel responsible to continue? No to the second. So I don't feel responsible to continue, but I think I do feel a little bit of maybe sunk cost fallacy. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Hayden. Where, we've worked hard to like create an audience. Well, I guess, I mean, like for Arsenal Pass, for me, it's I'm coming up on a year, I guess. But before that, like my YouTube channel, it's like you put in a lot of effort to sort of get to the point where you have an established audience. And it feels wasteful to just kind of throw that away. So yeah, not responsible, but just a feeling of, hey, we've put in a lot of effort to get to this point, and why stop because of that?
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, there's others out there that who'll be able to articulate this, and there's podcasts from content creators in different spaces that can go a lot deeper on this than we can in this sort of segment of the pod. But I think that's a very real thing that happens to almost all content creators. We're in a slightly different space where we're in a more of a niche. Obviously, we have a less demanding schedule in terms of the content we put out, right? But I know a lot of content creators feel like if they miss a day or they want to take a holiday or these sorts of things, that like it almost puts them backwards, right, on the content they're creating and the sort of audience that they're cultivating. I think we're really lucky in terms of the space that we operate in, that's maybe not completely the same, but I do feel that. I've definitely felt that before of like, we started, and I've done this before. We've done this before. Maybe we're, as Arsenal Pass, we've done particular pieces of content. I think gameplay series is a great example. I would love to do the gameplay series every single time a new set drops. I mean, I would love to do it more than that. It's just not feasible. I can't stretch myself to do it, or we can't stretch ourselves to do it. It's just not doable. So you have to learn to get comfortable with not being able to do everything. I think especially when content creation is not your full-time job, you've got to be able to know what time you can spend. And unlike maybe other content creation, the thing for us is we're competitively slanted. Like that is our focus. And so if we are not in tune with what is happening in competitive Flesh and Blood, we are not playing competitively, then it's so hard to be able to create that authentic and high level content. And people will call you out, right? Like if you put out a gameplay series and you don't play well or you don't understand the matchup, people will call you out because they don't see. And I think there's positives and negatives to that. I think people, rightly so, right, if they expect to tune into a competitive gameplay series, they want to see competitive play, right? Which makes 100% sense. So I basically had to personally, and it sounds like you're kind of the same, Pankaj, like just get comfortable with making the content that I had to have time to make, that we have time to make, but also at the same time make good quality content, right? If we can't do it and can't do it justice, then we just won't do it. So it's tough. It's really tough.
Definitely agree. Yeah, that's why I bring on pro players who have won their games on stream. And we talk about their gameplay because we know that's good.
Yeah. Whereas I've only got like a 50% win rate on stream, so don't bother. I mean, the funniest joke in Arsenal Pass history is that Brendan Patrick could never win a stream game. That was actually the funniest one.
I actually think for this month's Replay Analysis, unless we get some super amazing game at Kansas City, we might cover your game against the Gravy.
Oh my goodness, I might get an invite to the series.
Exactly. I might hit you up.
We'll see. I might be lucky enough to be shoulder tapped by Pankaj Bhojwani for his replay analysis series. What do you think of the name, by the way? Is it stuck now? Analyze this. I feel like it's stuck.
Analyze this. Yeah. I think it works.
I like it.
I liked it.
I'm a big fan. I'm annoyed that the reception to the name wasn't better. To be honest, I was expecting fanfare at that name, but apparently not. Apparently it's just another name. Just to go back to this question quickly. The difficulty of managing real life Flesh and Blood and content creation, I massively feel it. I particularly felt it, I think, in the last 2 years with like some changes in my career and personal life. But I think what it comes down to is just trying to utilize the time that I do have to spend on Flesh and Blood in the right ways. And sometimes there is a competition between playing Flesh and Blood and creating content. And I think that's actually the toughest one that I find to manage. Of like, if say I have a couple of hours in the evening, a lot of the time, if it's not Flesh and Blood related, often I'm thinking, oh, I should be doing something for Flesh and Blood right now, whether that's doing some content or playing some games to, get better at the game, to practice for an event, whatever it might be. But when I do set that time aside for Flesh and Blood, you kind of have to decide, am I using this time for content? Am I using this time to test and play games, or, go to an armory, go to a skirmish, go to a pro quest, whatever it might be, travel to a calling, all these things. So that is probably what I find the most difficult. And then I guess, just to sum it up to your point, I do actually feel a little bit responsible to continue to create content in some ways, and that's something that has definitely weighed on my mind. But also, I think at the end of the day, what I land on is if I'm enjoying what I'm doing, then that is the best thing, right? Like that is what's going to give me the passion to keep going. So, honestly, great question, and something that actually I think about a reasonable amount.
That's really interesting what you were saying about when you need to decide between practicing Flesh and Blood or making content for Flesh and Blood, and how that's like the most difficult for you. I feel like when I'm in the space of practicing Flesh and Blood, that's when I find making content the easiest.
Interesting.
Which I wonder whether there's some element of, I always preach about play the deck you enjoy. I wonder whether it's all related somehow, because like when I'm happy and like enjoying and like really feel very deep into the game, then I definitely want to talk about it and make content about it, and it just comes a lot more easier to me. I don't really feel the strain, but it's when other life stuff is sort of pulling me away from Flesh and Blood in general, that's when I find it hard to both practice and make content. So it's an interesting dynamic there between the two of us.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like in the lead up to events. So let's say I'm prepping for a pro tour. It's like, do I want to use 3 hours of my time this week to, like, I might be really entrenched in a deck or in the format, but do I want to use 3 hours of my time to prep for my event that I'm putting all this resource into and money and things like that? Or am I going to create some content? And that's actually what I find hard. I agree on when I'm into it, I find it easier to make the content for sure. It's more about the time for me. So for instance, the guide that I put up for Arakni Slips Through the Cracks this past week, like that was pure like passion writing. Like that happened on the plane on the way back after the event. A lot of it, all the extra sort of stuff, and that just kind of came naturally, right? Like I didn't have to force that or anything. I found that easy in a certain extent, but I also had the time to do it because the event was over and I was traveling home, sort of thing. So I think that's kind of where I sit. It's quite interesting though, honestly, and it's not easy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool. Well, if you get your questions in for the Command and Cookout, as Coleman and Ethan did, again, thank you for the question, both. And we love a nice handwritten question, especially when it's easy to read and you put your name on it. So thank you again for that question. I want to spend just a few minutes quickly reflecting on last week's pod, Pankaj. I think we had a very interesting podcast last week, very passionate podcast. We went deep on qualifying for the Pro Tour.
Yeah, we went deep on deck selection.
That's what
which is so interesting, because I think the title of the pod maybe wouldn't have gotten people, like the title of the pod didn't quite end up being what we spoke the most about. It feels like it was like tangentially related. We're talking about deck selection, which does relate to qualifying for the Pro Tour, but how deep we went into it, it was definitely very, very interesting for that particular topic.
I just wanted to revisit. We got some really in-depth commentary, I think, on the pod. Apart from Pankaj setting the clock on his stove. Which, have you done that yet?
I have,
yeah,
yes,
cool.
I did.
Cool.
That was such a funny comment. I don't look at the clock on my stove, right? I'm just like, whatever. So I actually just set it. The timing is still wrong, but I just set it so it doesn't
flash.
Yeah, that's why I just like press the button so it stops blinking, and I don't even know what time it says. Like, who looks at the stove for the time?
Yeah. So I think some of the in-depth comments we got last week, if you listen to the pod, and if you haven't, I mean, why didn't you listen? Go back and listen to it. But we got into this big discussion about, Pankaj really sitting on the side of the fence of play what you enjoy, right? And play what, spend that time exploring. And if that goes into winning events, right? In terms of like, if you aren't enjoying something, for a lot of people, it's going to be hard to play at your best, right? And I think, I don't think we ever necessarily disagreed with each other. We just sat on different sides of where the energy could go and how you could approach things. Whereas, I was very much saying, if your number one goal is to win, then just play the best deck. And I don't think those things are necessarily mutually exclusive in some ways, but like at times they're going to be. And so it was quite an interesting conversation. And I just wanted to address like a couple of the comments that we got on the pod this week. So we got a question or I guess a comment more from Sam, who pointed out that I was quite inflexible on just play the tier 1 deck discussion. That's true. I will say I was because of the nature of the pod being a very much like what I would do to qualify for the Pro Tour, I would say pretty inflexible. I think reflecting on it, I am here for spend your time brewing, testing, making a decision, about enjoyment factor. And, Sam was also pointing out things like card availability, expenses, and things like this, which 100% I also agree. There's, as Sam also pointed out, playing a slightly off meta pick might give you an angle to win an event without having to rely on, gravy mirrors, etc. 100% agree on that as well. I think the perspective I was trying to bring last week as well is once you tot all those things up, my view is that if you put all that energy and time into the best deck and that's your sole focus of getting the win, that's going to give you the best return. But on that goal, but if your goal is also you've got 70% to win, 20% enjoy your time, 10% think about the cost and related factors like that, then your decisions are going to look vastly different, right? Like I think, I'm not trying to say it's all black and white, but I think I was giving some black and white examples. So, yeah.
Cool. I really enjoyed the comments on that pod, actually. And if people missed the previous week's pod because they thought it's just a little bit more of maybe dry informational thing about how to like mechanically sort of qualify for the Pro Tour, definitely go check that pod out.
It is not that.
We had some interesting discussions on the deck selection part. Yeah, I think I'll come back to what you mentioned earlier, that we didn't necessarily disagree with each other, which I definitely... Yeah, I don't actually think we disagreed. I think we would just... Like, we both agreed for the general advice, the one that applies to the masses is just go play the tier 1 deck. And it takes a very particular player, and you have to know whether you are this sort of player, where your performance on a deck at a tournament is directly related to how much you're enjoying the deck that you're playing. And so if you know you are that, then the advice for the masses doesn't apply to you, but advice for the masses is still the advice for the masses for a reason. So
yeah, and I think I was also trying to hold a mirror up for some people to give them the kick they need to be like, stop messing around with things that because I think a lot of people do, they go, I should have just done this, and I'm like, yeah, you should have, but it's fine, you still had fun, you still learned. But then they do it again, and you're like, well, I can't help you if you're going to keep doing it. You know what I mean? So like, but if you keep doing it and you keep enjoying it, that's fine. That is very much cool. Mm-hmm. The last comment I want to shout out is from Moss V5X, which is basically they say this argument of see the best players for defending just blind picking the tier S decks doesn't make sense and it's bad advice. They talk about the Hamilton example that you cited as well. They spoke about sort of... playing the best deck, training, spending time, playing a deck that you don't enjoy, all these things. It's not a job. I agree with all of this. Apart from the first part of it's bad advice to play the ST deck. I don't think that's never bad advice. I will stand by that. But I do agree that, it is shades of grey. And for instance, the Hamilton example, Hamilton enjoys playing the best deck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, good on him. And I think there's this piece of if you weigh towards playing something you enjoy, then just go and do it. That's fine. I'm never going to tell you to not play something that you enjoy. But if you came to me and said, Hayden, I want to do everything I can to win an invite to a Pro Tour this year, the first thing I would say is stop playing the decks you enjoy. Learn to play the decks. Learn to enjoy the decks that are the best decks and focus on that. So it's going to be each to their own, right? It's going to be each to their own. I'm just giving some hard truths.
There's shades of grey on the other side too, right? Like even though I do say like I'm the sort of player that I think I need to play what I enjoy, I'm not going to show up on Max just because I enjoy Max, for example. Which I mean, I don't really particularly enjoy Max, but just as an example, like there is also a limit to how much the enjoyment can actually like translate to results. It still needs to be in the top tier of decks. I'm never gonna advise someone to go play Max or Betsy. But if someone's like, hey, I'm deciding between a Cilio or a Slippy, and Slippy is like the established tier 1 deck, like right now, and a Cilio is not quite like in the top 2 Gravy or Slippy thing, but you enjoy a Cilio way more, I'll be like, if you are that sort of player, then I would advise you to play a Cilio over Slippy, for example. That's kind of where the distinction comes for me, where it's like, you are talking about decks that could win. Like, I mean, Dash.io won the event, right? And Dash.io isn't like in the top 2 most like tier 1 decks right now. But if someone enjoys that more than they enjoy something like Slippy, then I would say that is enough of a reason to lean towards that instead. But if you tell me you enjoy Betsy more than you enjoy Slippy, then no, it's not the case. So yeah, shades of grey on that side as well.
Yeah, there's also this thing where you can extrapolate to like meta picks, which is something we kind of touched on but didn't go deep on, which is like, for instance, Dash.io. I think an interesting meta pick if there's a lot of Gravy, there's, minimal Earth, and you have to just maybe deal with the Slippy matchup. All of a sudden, maybe there's a lot of Kano. There's all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually, IO is quite an interesting, Syndra, maybe a lot of IO becomes quite an interesting pick, right? So I think, I'm not saying you can't make a meta pick, right? We were talking about a really spread field for ProQuest, which is kind of hard to meta pick in a ProQuest field as opposed to maybe something like a Pro Tour or even sometimes like a calling. The last thing I just wanted to say as well was, I think I'm definitely not saying there's only one way to do it. I'm not saying the only way you can win ProQuest is by playing the S tier deck. There are many different ways to do it. You can do it by being off meta. You can do it by being super creative and finding something that other people didn't find. You can do it by catching people off guard. You can do it by playing the thing that you're super passionate about and tweaking it and tuning it to be good into that meta, for instance. These are all very viable ways. I think if I had to sum it up, what I'm saying is for most people, like you say, Pankaj, for the masses, for most people, and the most consistent, the way that's going to get the highest percentage of results is doing the simple thing, which is just focusing on playing the best deck. But it's not going to be for everyone. And lastly, I just want to remind everyone that Michael Hamilton played Bravo at Worlds in Barcelona.
I'm not sure what the last anecdote was about, but all right, cool.
It was just a reference to Moss's comment about playing what you enjoy and Michael Hamilton.
Definitely agreed to everything you said. That's like I said, I think we were agreed from the beginning as well. I think we just wanted to give our perspectives on it, and I do agree that my advice is for a much narrower part of the player base, and it's not the masses. And I look at it, I look at it as more as like a tiebreaker sort of thing, honestly, maybe.
That's fair.
Even where it's like, I think we've waffled enough on the topic. At this point, we might be just going around in circles.
Let's talk a bit about the Classic Constructed meta, a bit of an update, and let's talk about Kansas this coming weekend, expectations, and what you're going to play at Pankaj. So let's just recap a little bit about Auckland. You already spoke through the top 8, a very diverse top 8 in Auckland for the Classic Constructed top 8 there, where there was 2 Slippies. I was obviously making up one of those numbers. Prism, a Gravy, a Dash.io, and a Cilio. Shout out Alex for. And a Fang and Kano making that top 8. The meta breakdown, I think, was probably mostly what I would expect for something like a calling. So Slippy, most played deck, following on from Singapore. Gravy, second most played deck. But then Syndra has really dropped off, which I think makes sense because I think Syndra kind of sucks a bit. Its place in the meta is really fallen away. It's weird. It's like, okay, you're good into Gravy, but you're not really good into anything else. And a lot of these other decks that are trying to hybrid combat Gravy are just really good into you, like the Iras, like the Araknis, for instance. Like I think Dash.io is good into Syndra as well. So I think what we've seen though since Shoma winning in Singapore is this rise of Ira, third most played deck over the weekend. And then the surprise is probably, Verdance being the fourth most played deck and also had really good conversion into day 2.
And you mentioned Syndra sucks, and you're like, Syndra's only good into Gravy, but I think the one difference... I mean, I do agree with you. I don't feel like Syndra isn't great.
Very hard and fast. I don't necessarily believe all of that, but that's kind of to sum it up.
The one reason I could see someone bringing Syndra over Ira is the Verdance matchup, actually. I think if you're against Verdance, you'd much rather be on Syndra than on Ira.
Yes, 1,000%.
So this Ira rising up, Ira seems to be taking the place of Syndra, it feels like, where Syndra was like the ninja that will like trounce Gravy. Well, I say trounce, it was still only 60-40. We've had this discussion before. Where Syndra's like the ninja that's favored into Gravy. But then it seems like Ira is taking over that spot. I think Ira maybe has a similar matchup percentage into Gravy specifically, but I think why maybe people are favoring that is because of Slippy, right? I think if you're against Slippy, you'd much rather be on Ira than Syndra. Not that it's good for Ira, but it's better for Ira than it is for Syndra. Just because like Flick Flax and stuff are like natural cards that like Ira is like happy to run, like maybe even like some snags. So basically there are draw sequences where you can beat the Slippy, whereas a Syndra, it's like a lot tougher of a ask, it feels like. So I can see that being why Ira's pulled ahead of Syndra, but perhaps it also explains why Verdance had quite a good conversion rate, because that's the one that shocked me the most looking at the day 2 conversion. So for those who don't know, Verdance had a 67% conversion into day 2 from day 1. So 6 Verdance players made it to day 2, which I personally find baffling because the Gravy matchup is kind of horrendous, right? I think we saw at Pro Tour Verdance players showing up thinking they had the plan for Gravy, and then they had like a 10% win rate or something across both days. So I don't think Verdance has found the solution to that matchup yet. But I guess, I mean, they're going to Slippy, and if the ninja of choice instead of Syndra is going to be Ira, then maybe Verdance is just saying, hey, I beat everything but Gravy.
Yeah.
So let me just show up on this deck.
Good. I mean, I think that's a good place to be. Honestly, I think that is a very, very strong place to still be. Don't forget there's Prisms hanging around as well. Prism was 6 copies. That's not particularly good for Verdance. But what I would say is I just want to get back to the Ira one. I don't think there's consensus that Ira is unfavored into Slippy, by the way. I personally think it's like a 55 to 60 for Slippy. I think there's people out there who think it's the other way around. Like it's like a 50 to 55 for Ira. So interesting. And what I would say is I've actually seen this firsthand by watching people play this matchup where, so in our sort of testing group, so all 3 of myself, Dan Mackay, and our friend Dave, we all did not make day 2 of the seal calling, so we all played CC. And me and Dan played Slippy, and Dave played Ira. And Dave and Dan were playing some games of Ira versus Slippy, and Dave was destroying Dan, I would say, on Ira. And I think, to your point, like they have draws where they can just... There's not a lot, actually, that Slippy can do about it. Just cards just line up in the right way, defense reactions line up in the right way. There's also, I think, a play style thing to it. I played one game against Dave on Ira and won that game by playing quite differently, I think. That was my kind of plan if I played into Ira. I didn't play Ira in the weekend. I've since played another game against Ira doing that exact strategy, which is being more patient, sort of playing more for like the second cycle setups and being very defensive through first cycle and just giving the Ira 5-card hands and being like, at some point you're going to draw a double defense reaction, double blue, whatever, and just like give me space to leak damage. And I found that to be very effective. But I think it's not clean cut, and I think there's still a lot to learn about that matchup. The Ira list is still solidifying a little bit as well, so things will, I think, stay in flux. So anyway, I just thought that I think that matchup is maybe one of the most interesting matchups in Flesh and Blood right now.
I think that is one interesting thing about Ira that I'm not entirely sure how many people have caught on yet, but I think some people might have a little bit of a muscle memory aversion to like letting them have the Mask of Momentum draw. Because you're so used to like a Syndra getting it or like a Fi getting it, yes, and it actually converts to 3 or 4 damage.
Ira does not.
But in Ira, there's so many times where I'm just like, cool, just take your mask draw, and then they're like, and then they're like, here's a 0 for 1. I guess. Yeah. Like, cool. Your mask gave you 1 extra damage, like whatever. I do not care. Yeah. And I think. And I do wonder, you know how like when Syndra, when she came out, and then Memphis, like there was the 2 back-to-back callings where people just didn't fully know how to block Syndra yet, and so she was just winning a lot. I do wonder whether there's some aspect of that going on with Ira too, where perhaps people are over-respecting the mask and just giving her a lot of free value, which she doesn't deserve.
Yes.
We'll have to wait and see on that.
Yep. I think there's some and some. Anything else that catches your eye about the mid? I mean, 5 Acilio is quite interesting. Obviously, Alex Vore put himself into top 8 on Acilio. I mean, what a master as well. Like, just you talk about players playing off meta and having success. Like, that is Alex Vore to a T. One of my favorite Alex Vore stories is that for Worlds Barcelona, he literally rolled a dice to decide the deck he was going to play and ended up playing Reiner, which is just insane. But yeah, what a guy.
Yeah. I remember that was really funny. There is one thing that I do want to bring up, which is not really something that we see on the screen, but something that is missing, which I thought would have a bit more of a splash, but clearly not. And that is, where is Valda?
Oh yes, good point.
Like, where's
2 players?
Where's Waldo / where's Valda? This was the weekend where Mastery Pack Guardian was released, and I think in the weeks leading up to it, in a couple of weeks leading up to it, when we had the full set, I know a lot of people were practicing Valda. There were rumors that Valda can do something to Gravy because you just dominate a big thing and destroy the compass or whatever. You dominate a battering to a pulp, destroy the compass. But in the end, a Guardian's a Guardian, I suppose. And maybe like what we prophesized came to fruition, where the Gravy's just like, oh, cool, you're still a Guardian. I can still just beat you. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Look, I think I'm more interested this weekend. It was obviously the release weekend. I think the main focus for a vast majority of people at that event was the seal calling beforehand. You know, for instance, myself, right? I didn't really test CC before playing that event. I think a lot of people are in the same boat. Not everyone, obviously, but a lot of people. So this weekend being the calling Kansas and a fully focused Classic Constructed calling a week after the release of the Mastery pack, I think I'm more interested in terms of how the Guardians show up this weekend. Not saying that I think they're going to show up in a big way or have success, but for instance, if I was going to Kansas this weekend, I mean, I would obviously snap be playing Slippy. I think my pro, or whether I was playing Ira, whether I was playing Gravy, whether I was playing Verdance, whatever it is. I mean, maybe less so Verdance because I don't think you care too much. But those three heroes, I would definitely be putting in some thought about how they're going to respond to me and what my plans are going to be this weekend, because I would expect a decent chunk of Guardian to show up. I'm really interested to see what the most played Guardian this coming weekend is. Like, it was Jarl in Auckland, and I think there's a real likelihood that it's Jarl again in Kansas.
I feel like I can't pick between Jarl, Victor, or Valda. I could see reasons for any one of those three. Oh, actually,
I can't see Victor.
I'm gonna go with...
I can't see Victor. I think Victor sucks.
I could see Victor because I think out of the three of them, he's probably the best one into Ira, and if we're expecting a little bit of an uptick into Ira, I could see that being the case. Jarl Ira is kind of miserable for Jarl, by the way. The Jarl kind of just dies to Kodachis.
Yeah, I can see that.
Whereas Victor and Valda can actually like do something.
Victor's
and like
so
Victor
bad. Victor's not good into Slippy though. Like, Victor is just actively not good into Slippy.
Even with the with the new Test of Iron Grip.
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, I haven't tested it with Test of Iron Grip beforehand. It was the problem is like, so you have these kind of like big bursts of damage you can do at the end game by stacking gold, right? With Visit Goldman Estate and
Golden Sun.
and then and Golden Sun, these sorts of things. But Slippy can just stack like ridiculous end games, and they can just block you. Like, all their cards block 3, so they're just like, and you don't have the dominate and things like that as much. So I don't know. I've not found that matchup to be even remotely difficult. Maybe Test of the Iron Strength, changes things with Iron Strength, but I don't know if it's going to change things enough. So yeah, and then also your Gravy. You're not good at Gravy, right? So
yeah, you're not. From what I've heard is the Iron Grip card, which seems to be giving him a little bit of a bump. But yeah, I think Valda, like if you once you bring up the Gravy thing, I think Valda's the best chance at the Gravy. I'm still not very convinced.
I'm not off the wagon of Jarl can do it into Gravy. I personally don't necessarily believe it, but I've seen it. Like, I've watched it happen. I saw it happen again in the weekend to Mr. Michael Yaska losing to a Jarl in the weekend. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Jarl has that. Like, we speak about, like, there's a sequence of draws where you can get there, and I think Jarl has in a sense, the easiest one, right? Because it's completely agnostic of the Gravy. Yes. Like, Valda can dominate a battle to a pulp, but if the Gravy found the D-React on that hand or whatever, or like has the Soul Bones to prevent... Oh, wait, no, I guess it won't really work for the crush of battle to a pulp, so never mind. Ignore the sub. Yeah, it's like, they have the D-React, they have the armor up, it's like, you know, the Valdas might not go through, but if you are Jarl, you go first, and you just saw your frozen to death and crumble to eternity, and you just blow up the compass by turn 2, it does feel like you probably just won the game right there. So I could see how Jarl has that high roll potential into Gravy. He has that sequence of draws where, you know what, he kind of just wins. Because, once Gravy doesn't have the compass, it is very difficult for them to get over the fatigue.
Yeah. Anything you want to say about the meta? Has anything changed for you? Let's just put it, because we could talk about Gravy best decks, that we could have our usual weekly debate, but I think let's just go past that, and I'll ask the question to you. Has anything changed for you about the meta? Quick high-level recap. It sounds to you like Ira's more of a player, Verdance is showing up more, nothing else has really changed.
I think it's still a 2-deck format.
Sure.
I think it's still Gravy Slippy, and you have very good reason to not be playing either one of those two.
With that said, what are you playing this weekend in Kansas? Do you have a good enough reason to not be playing one of those two?
I think so. I don't know. Again, my reason also partly is that I want to play the deck that I enjoy, and I don't enjoy Gravy or Slippy. So that is one of my reasons. And I think what I'm pretty much. I think at this point I can just ship it is Marinette.
Okay,
because you have the good Slippy matchup, and I believe the Gravy matchup is actually slightly positive.
Wow.
Once people have realized I mean, I believe so. Yeah. So that's the thing. We'll see how it goes. Well, what are your thoughts? Lay it on me. I know you're gonna call me out for being stupid or something. Just go ahead, let it out.
I'm not. Hey, look, we said you know if a big part of what you need to do to play well, to feel confident, is play something that you enjoy, and you don't enjoy. You know, I was trying to get you on the Slip Through the Crack bandwagon. I sent you the deck guide as soon as I'd like drafted it up, and I was like, check this out. I mean, I have probably not seen the same things from Marionette like when I tried it, but things have changed since then. Decks have evolved. You're a much better Marionette player than the average Marionette player, and that's certainly for true. So I'm interested to see, you know, first of all, what your deck list is going to look like, and then how it goes.
Sorry, excuse me. Not positive, but like 50% into
Sure.
Gravy, which I think is fine. If you're not like unfavored into Gravy and you're beating Slippy, which I do expect more Slippies than Gravies.
Me too.
I think that's fine. Verdance is a problem, but Verdance is a problem even if I wasn't Slippy. So, yeah.
Like I expect Slippy to be maybe 5 to 7%. No, it's a calling. So let's say 4 to 5% more representation than Gravy. I genuinely now think Slippy is just. I think it's the best deck in the format. I think whereas before I was like, it's pretty close. I can see the Gravy Bones argument. The more I've played both decks, I'm just like, nah, I can't see it anymore. I just think Slippy is kind of busted. But
that's fair.
Which is crazy because 3 months ago I was like, this hero is unplayable.
I mean, honestly, a few days before yesterday, I was actually thinking I might actually just admit defeat and actually just play Slippy, which is why I asked you for the Slippy guide and everything in your list and everything, what changes you would make. It was literally yesterday. I was just like, you know what? Why don't I just play the other assassin where I do have the good Slippy matchup? I was like thinking of Slippy Mirrors, and I was like, I do not want to be caught in Slippy Mirrors. And I was like, you know what? I'll play into Slippy if I'm on Marinette.
Sure,
that feels a lot more enjoyable.
That's fair.
So
I personally like the Slippy Mirror, but I can see it. I can see it. And honestly, I'm actually intrigued. Like, I'm super keen to chat to you about Marionette now. And like, having played a bunch of Slippy, like, you know what? I could be convinced to become someone who actually has a soft spot for Assassin, as opposed to being an absolute Assassin hater, as I've been for a long time. I've been like, I hate that class. I don't enjoy playing with it. I don't enjoy playing against it. And then in the lead up to Pro Tour London, I played a lot of Slippy and Marionette. Was like, I actually don't mind this, but I don't think either of these heroes are good in that particular meta. And I actually got to the point of thinking Slippy was kind of unplayable. To now, now having played quite a bit of that hero, played a decent amount of Marionette, now enjoying it a lot more. So I could get on board, honestly.
Wow. In before the next event, I'm on Gravy and you're on Assassin.
Oh my goodness. Okay. No, you'll be playing the new Illusionist that comes out that fits your playstyle more. You'll be like, I can't believe if I've changed it. This Illusionist feels like me.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add? I mean, best of luck this weekend. I'm looking forward to watching coverage, obviously, seeing how you do. And please share with me your deck list. I want to see this. And then we'll obviously recap next week in the pod. And, of course, we'll open maybe 2 gold foils. Definitely 1 gold foil next weekend.
Well, now it's definitely not happening. Now you've jinxed it. It's definitely not happening now.
Well, I was walking around on Saturday after round 1 telling my friends I was going to win the event. I was like, I'm winning this event. I'm definitely winning this event.
Nice.
And then I only top 8.
Top 8, you got really close.
So close enough. So just tell everyone you're going to win. It'll be fine. Okay. So we'll open a gold foil next week on the pod. We'll recap the event. And I mean, we're getting really close to having conversations about Super Slam as well, which is very cool. Obviously, we didn't even talk about a bunch of the preview cards that we got shown over the weekend. Yes. So we'll talk about those next week on the pod as well, because
we definitely have to.
Yeah, there's a lot happening now.
Because yeah, a little bit of a spoiler. I don't believe in that new Riptide card, but yeah, we'll get more into that next week.
Yeah, the spoiler. I don't believe in the new. It's so funny. So they literally, I'm like standing having a conversation with some of the staff of LSS, some of the developers, and like the Rhinar card drops, right? And like my friend like walks over, he's like, "Have you seen this?" Like kind of interjecting the conversation. And a couple of the devs were like, oh, yeah, the Rhino card? Yeah, like, what do you think? And I was like, look, I'll bang my head against a brick wall for 2 weeks, like I do every time that something new for Rhino drops, and then I'll decide it's unplayable. And they're like, oh, well, maybe. And I'm like, I would love to be wrong. I would love to be wrong about that. So it comes out the week of Worlds, like the week before Worlds, that Rhino Armory deck, I believe.
Oh, I see. Oh, they're doing that again.
So that's interesting. Yeah. So we will see if there's something else in there.
Well, it's Rhinar though, so it's like, will that actually have a splash?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, let us know sooner, because I would love to play. I would love to convince someone to play Rhino. Who, whatever. I'll be involved. I mean, I strongly considered playing. If I had time, I was like, oh, maybe I like brew a Rhino list and just play Rhino for this. So Welcome to Wraith. Limited calling. Should I just play Rhino at the calling if I don't make day 2? I'm glad I played Slippy, obviously, but I would like to play Rhino at an event at some point. It's on my bucket list. I've never played Rhino at a tier 3 or 4 event. I would love to. Well, in constructed.
I'm not going to hold my breath
and
on that,
me either.
But, we'll see.
Maybe I'll just bite the bullet and just do it. All right, that has been episode 226 of Arsenal Pass. Shout out to all the Arsenal Pass patrons. Of course, that deck guide is up there now. We have, of course, on the main feed channel as well, the replay review of the Gravy finals with Pankaj from Pro Tour Singapore. Lots happening out there. Of course, we'll be back next week. So until next week, we'll see you in the next episode.